Hey, Renee.
Hi, Annette.
We're going to do today, the question I get from some people who've been sexually abused is, why do I keep sabotaging myself in different situations in their life? So that will be the subject in itself right there. Some people have lack of self-esteem. Self-esteem is a huge issue after sexual abuse or severe trauma. But I don't want to go with talking big on it because that will be a whole subject in itself, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
It would be really long. And lack of self-esteem has to do with not feeling worthy, maybe even having self-hatred. So we're going to take that and put it aside. But that could be one of the reasons why somebody wants to self-sabotage.
Huge reason.
Huge reason. Another one is to stay in control of a situation. It's a way out. So, Renee, if, let's see, I'm trying to think of an example. If I say I'm no good at painting or whatever it is and go, oh, I just need bodies over here, just using the paintbrush or whatever it is. So I come over and I really don't want to paint. I really don't want to paint. And then all of a sudden I get out the paintbrush and I am just looking so uncoordinated and I'm making a bigger mess painting for you. You will say, you know what, Annette, how about you go ahead over here and just sand the wood? I just got my way out.
Yeah.
I sabotaged and got my way out. I was able to control the situation. I hated painting above anything else. And so it was my way of self-sabotaging. Does that make sense? I've seen it a lot at some people at work. They don't like their job. So maybe they will, and they don't like their job because they're being asked to do something maybe they don't have the skills for, or they have the skills, but it's just boring for them to put one marble in a hole all day long, and it's just boring for them. So they get caught being on their phone during the day, and they've been told, you need to stay off your phone. Well, the third time, they're fired, and they're like,
yeah.
They self-sabotaged because they hated their job and they didn't want to. They were bored stiff. They didn't want to do it anymore, and this was a way out. They didn't really think through it, but in the back of their mind, it was there.
Yes. And it was more comfortable. It's a play that we can do to ourselves in our mind, like this, well, this would be more comfortable than the tough thing to do. So let's just do what's comfortable, no matter what the consequence is.
That controlled the situation. That controlled the situation. Do you have any stories or anything that goes with that or thoughts?
With the sabotage? No, when I was thinking about the word sabotage, I was like, man, it's such a big word. And trying to figure out, when do I do it? I even asked my husband, he didn't give me an answer. But when I was thinking about it, what came to mind was actually an old job I used to have. When I was had my own business. It came to mind as I was thinking about that word, like, Lord, show me an example of where I've done it in my life. And I'm sure I have done it more than just this one time, guarantee it. I even looked online even to see what it even said about self-sabotage. So before I go into the story, I'll kind of tell a little bit of what I heard online. And it was basically, it's a disproportioned, like you have a reaction that's disproportionate to the actual issue. Okay. And so the example would be me having my own business when I was a younger mom. And it goes right on to the thing about the job. I didn't want to do what needed to be done to be successful. I wanted to be successful, but I didn't want to do all the hard work to be successful. And what it took to be successful was a lot of phone calls, a lot of dialing the phone to follow the leads that I had already made, relationships I had already begun. I needed to start making those phone calls. And booking them for appointments for these parties. And the self-sabotage was the procrastination. It was like, well, I don't need to do that. You know, maybe they'll come to me. Maybe they'll, and I'd start making up situations that weren't even reality. Is that, you know what I mean? Like, well, I got 8 hours today to work. Well, maybe I need to organize this. This really needs to be organized. But that organizing was not making me money. That organizing wasn't doing the most needed thing of my job to make the success, to make the paycheck.
That makes
sense.
Try
to retire my So yeah, what I realized was I self-sabotaged when I could have done better doing what was most important to succeed. But I chose to self-sabotage because, yeah, I didn't feel it was worthy of my time. I would think I would get rejected, all these different reasons, which also tie to the whole self-esteem thing, you know, the whole I'm not worthy, who needs to, you know, who
you were
needs
just
to have
checking the boxes. Eventually,
yeah.
When you add it all up, sabotage was just around the corner and fit perfectly into that slot.
Oh, yeah. On the days that I wasn't feeling great about myself, I'm sure those were the days sabotage came in and sitting right beside me in the chair. Renee, go do this instead. Renee, do that instead. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's my example.
I know another one is imposter syndrome. A lot of people are talking about imposter syndrome these days, and you could be doing super well. So let's say you were doing super well in your business, exceedingly well, and then all of a sudden, for some reason in your mind, you felt like when everybody was saying, you're so great, Renee, at this. You're an incredible salesperson, Renee. And all you're doing is getting these kudos and awards and everything. And somewhere inside of you, you feel like you're being fake. You feel like that's not me. I know these are the results everybody's seen, but that's not who I am. And that self-esteem is just because it never got adjusted. It never got put back where it needed to be and everything. Will start in pounding at you. So then people will go ahead and just follow through with dropping the ball quite a bit on major things. So the fail comes and they'll be like, see, I told you guys, I wasn't that person. I wasn't that. It was a fluke during that time. And that's that imposter syndrome. Yeah. Absolutely. It could also look like killing relationships. They left me. And so, Renee, let's say you don't let your husband into your life. I mean, you just keep him out. You just keep pushing him away. You keep pushing him away. You keep pushing him away. And he finally just says, you know, I think we'd be better in just 2 households. It'd just be easier. Everything I touch in the kitchen, you're all upset about. Anything that I do this way wise, I've decided to do my own laundry, and then you don't want me using the washing machines anymore, so I have to go to the laundromat. It just, everything keeps piling up to the point where you're killing off the relationship, but you're saying they left me. When it was really you did the sabotage.
Right, yeah. The smothering and the sabotage, yep. Yeah. I've seen that a lot.
I've seen it also with finances going in the hole, where people will sabotage. They could be fine financially, but they constantly will get in the hole, and they're actually doing it to themselves because that's where they're the most comfortable, is financially being in tight reins, because maybe they grew up in a house where finances were always tight. So it just feels normal. So they'll actually sabotage and overindulge on certain somethings, so they end up in a lot of debt, so the finances are super tight, so then they feel good again, which doesn't sound right, but they're looking for having that control and having something that feels similar to them when they need to actually change. And you mentioned procrastination.
I have.
Go ahead.
I've seen that in both relationships where someone will indulge in other relationships and not their most significant other's relationship. I've seen that where they'll sabotage, like overworking. They'll just do certain things that they think will fill whatever the void is instead of feeding the relationship that's most important to them, and like their marriage. I've also had somebody, they've done the sabotaging where it's because they always needed that high, that familiar high of whatever it was. It could be any kind of sin or any kind of action that's just not good for that person. I'm forgetting what the one person did, but it's an example like that. It's anytime that she was on a good streak, it's like, no, this feels too good. This too real. It's too good to be true. I shouldn't be here in this healthy space or in this healthy relationship or with these
because
healthy
they want
people.
chaos. They want chaos because they're looking for that chaos, which seems normal.
Yes. And what you explained to me at one time, it was some people have this addiction to this roller coaster thing.
That's right.
Remember that? This is, and
they want you to get on the roller coaster with them.
Right? And it was always, hey, this is what's happening, great. And then, hey, oh no, this is what's happening. It's so bad, It's up or down, up or down. And people can go to do those chaotic things or so depressive things just for the attention or for familiarity. Because they want to stay in that bondage. I know that sounds wrong, but
it feels comfortable. It's what they were used to, and that's how they survived. They didn't realize it was so unhealthy. And though they can see from a distance that's unhealthy, when they're actually doing it or in it, they're blind to it. Yeah. They just can't see it.
Yeah. When I had looked it up, it also said something about not just our reactions, but it's almost like we're playing as two different personalities, like the child within us being selfish, and then the adult sees things clearly. We know it for what it should be, but then that internal person of ours that's still stuck in that trauma or stuck in that place just always plays the selfish mode, the sabotage mode of, well, just take care of me, just deal with me. And that doesn't do what the adult thing should be or what the clear perspective is. They don't see that.
Very good. Yes.
So that was a good teaching for me to understand it more.
A couple of other ones was procrastination, perfectionism, making changes just too hard, so they sabotage. Time management. They're always late. They sabotage themselves so that they are always late, so they live up to always being late. Victimhood. I'm always overlooked. I'm always mistreated. That type of thing. They will actually sabotage so that it does happen, so it is fulfilled. So those are just some of the top ones that came to mind. More important is how to stop. How to stop. Listening to others tell you what they're seeing, that they know you're just not seeing.
So
actually listening. Trust wise counsel. Absolutely. Yeah.
See your blind spots. I don't know how many times you have pointed out my blind spots. I don't say this in a negative way, but as a friend, and you being a wise counsel and a iron sharpening iron friend, you have mentioned things, and just in conversations, just natural conversations, did you ever think about this, Renee? I'm like, oh, never saw it that way. And it's always with a question, not a, you should, or did you know? It's always with an open-ended question, and it makes me think of, oh, yeah. And then thank God that I'm teachable and that I repent if it's something,
right.
I need
and
to
you
repent
learn
of.
and you try to start getting it going in the right direction again. Absolutely.
The sabotage shows up in all sorts of forms. So
I think it shows up more than we realize. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another is to stop and look at situations and do some self-reflection. And I had that the other day when I was asked to take an assessment. I had a really bad toothache. So a few weeks ago, I had a really bad toothache. I was hurting. I wasn't in the mood. And I was asked by a friend, will I take this it's called Working Genius Assessment. And everything in my mind was, I don't want to do this. But they were like, you need to take it today. Please do it. And it was like, oh, I guess I could, it only takes 15 minutes. And I was like, all right, I could do this. And then I'm going to lay down. My mouth just hurts so much. So I wasn't in the mood. You could already see that. You could see the painted picture. But what I wasn't seeing was my negativity towards the name of the assessment was Working Genius. Okay? Mm-hmm. So it went deeper, but because I wasn't paying attention, all I was doing was focus, get it done. I did it. Yeah. I did a horrible job on the assessment. But afterwards, I stopped and took a look at it. This was a couple of days afterwards because I wasn't even interested in the results. Okay. So when I was feeling better, I stopped and took a look at it and going, man, I really messed up the test. The assessment. I really did a bad job on this. And it was like, why did I do such a bad job? Was it just because I wasn't feeling well? And it was like, no, because it stirred up in me that child that heard, you're just being stupid. You're just not that smart. You're not quick. You're everything that has to do with just stupid. And I had heard it so much growing up in school that that's opposite of genius. So now I'm taking an assessment, Working Genius, and that kid inside of me is saying, you're just stupid. Why even do this? This is stupid. I don't want to do it. This is stupid. I'm stupid. I'm not even going to get anything right on this assessment because I don't have the ability to get anything right on this assessment. So with self-reflection, I realized I failed the assessment because I took control of it. I wanted control when I was in pain. I wanted control. And I just purposely failed the assessment. I keep calling it a test. It's an assessment.
You just fell through it without concern.
And why didn't I want to do this? Well, because I didn't want it proved again that I'm stupid. And it's like, I know I'm not stupid. That's that old voice, but it was there. And that's the truth that I was dealing with. And that's something to ask yourself after you've done a sabotage is ask yourself the question, why don't you want to do this? Or why did you do this? And what kind of state of mind are you in right now? Because if you already see yourself at the beginning point of self-sabotaging, stop. Now, most of the time you can't see it till afterwards, or a good friend points it out. But then you can ask yourself, what is the reason of why you're doing something in the way that you're doing it? And what's your state of mind? That's huge.
When you were just saying this, it made me think of the fear of failure. And you used the word perfectionism earlier as a way of self-sabotage, is a fear of failure. Never thought about that, but that being connected to sabotage, the fear would stir like testing. Some people have a fear of taking tests and failing, and because they have not done well on a written test, it can then become a regular pattern.
Yes.
Of making myself sick, that gets them.
Here comes the next test. I got to do this test.
Yes.
And then all of that comes on back.
Yeah, all the emotion, the triggers, all of that stuff. Like, whew.
But if you can get to the root of why, if I could get to the root of why, and it took me time, and I realized it was all those old voices I heard when I was younger. Now I needed to make a decision. Am I going to accept that as truth, or they were just saying these words, they were being mean, all this other, they were being uncaring, all of that going on. So I needed to take the truth that was there and then come forward to where I am now in life and go, no, that's not truth.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Many years between that word spoken over us to current time.
Absolutely.
And where was the
Now there are ways you can
function back.
There are ways you can change your behavior in a situation, and the small steps we could take, and that's admit that you sabotaged yourself. And I did that. I admitted it to 2 people. I admitted it to you way back then, a couple of weeks ago, and then I also admitted it to another good friend of mine who asked me to take that assessment. So that was huge. Now, it was discouraging because that darn assessment costed a good deal of money, but at the same time, it was worth the amount of money because of what I learned out of it, what I got out of it, not of the assessment itself, but out of learning that I could still sabotage myself today. It's not gone, and it still wants to creep back in. And so in order to kill it and stuff like that, admitting to others helps me be more watchful. And it also helps people like you who are around me to be able to spot it or say, hey, Annette, I got a question for you. When you see it might just be kicking its heels up a little bit.
Yeah. And then even ask, so how's it going in that area, my friend? Have you seen it creep up this week? And if so, how? How did you slay it?
Right. And it's not so much the sabotage as in going back to that root again. Mm-hmm. So always go back to the root. So whatever the root was, and for me, it was being identified as being stupid, being an idiot. And that was the opposite. So not for everybody, it's going to be the same thing. And not for every situation I have does sabotage tie into that. So it's important to go back to that root of where it came from. Also to apologize to those involved. So I made up that painting story. So let's say it was true, even though it wasn't. I need to go back to you, Renee, and say, you know what? I really could have painted with everybody else in the house. I purposely did that because I didn't want to paint. To actually apologize. And that really helps put sabotage more to the back because I don't want to have to do that again. Mm-hmm. And to ask for a second chance. Do you got another painting job that you have available coming up that I could do? Because this will help me squash that sabotage that I had.
It also makes me think it's a way to kick Satan in the teeth because you're redirecting. I mean, I know this is it's a non-biblical subject, but it is by you doing these positives, it's slaying the negative. It's slaying the voices that Satan loves to throw at you. And it's also slaying the not what is best actions that you've done and replacing it with what is best. And an apology, an apology and asking for forgiveness is God's best,
Yes, it is. Okay, well, thank you for discussing this with me today. It's a large subject. It does include a lot of self-esteem in there, but I wanted to leave out that one for another discussion another day.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for touching base on this one. I hope it's helping. Help me. Thank you.
Oh, that's good to know. Bye-bye.